little note on the first poem. The quadricentennial dome is, wala na kasi sa footnote, but it's a dome that's erected across the Naga Cathedral in celebration of the 400 years of Peña Francia, the devotion to Peña Francia. Si Sailor Moon sa gitna ng quadricentennial dome. Habang naghihintay ng sasakyan, mag-usap na muna tayo dahil mukhang matatagalan at may binubungkal na namang kalsada sa piling. Nawawala si Chibiusa, walang sagot si Luna, at kaya kami ni Sailor Neptune labis na nababahala. Ngunit kailangan magpakatatag at bilang ina, inutusan ko kayo mga kapatid. Ikaw at si Sailor Mercury, walang duda na ang Black Moon Clan ang may sala. Si Sailor Neptune na taga-Nabwa. Neptune, planet, power, paliguan ng pag-ibig ang buong daigdig, make up! Si Sailor Mercury na taga-Minalabak. Mercury, planet, power, pagpalingasin ng sikuan ng pag-asa, make up! At ako, bilang Sailor Moon. Moon, crystal, power, isuot ang pagda ng kagandahan, make up! At ikalat ang liwanag sa dilim. Ako, si Sailor Moon. Ang bota, ang armas, ang mga hiyas, parurusahan kita sa ngalan ng buwan. Pagdating ng sasakyan, kaming tatlo naka-combat position. Sabay kuha sa aming mga trolley at lunchbox sa may hagdanan. Bukas, sa gitna nitong patio, si Ina. The next poem is in page 92. Hindi ko na babasahin yung Tagalog. I'll read the Rinconada. Yagaganahan sa Miss Gay. Sabi ko nung mga baklang ng ibita ko mga kandidata, yagaganahan ko no sa kanirang Miss Gay, bukusan ng corona, bukusan ng sash, bukusan ng burak o kadakol na cash. Aming ganang kuno at kodarwang bote nin alak sa kalosyon galing sa mga sponsors. Sa kudawa kuno daog ako mandyaday. Kaya biyong pupulok-pulok sa mga bakla, tamarhay na kuno iton sa udabasang. Baga na taas sa rock and roll ya stage ta iba-iba ya kolor ka kanirang mga postura. Agko lang kintab, agko man ngamin burak, agko baga na mantel, agko baga nakakasalon. Ruluwasan man kuno sa mga susong ipit ko mag-urukas na para swimsuit. Saka magsirimbagan na ka mga questions. Kubinaoy na sa mga nanggarana, nakaabang naman sa mga lalaki sa tugilid ka stage, baga na agko no ulat. Paggalin ko mga bakla, puro alsa sa mga bado, corona, sash, burak, so alak sa kudlosyon, so mga lalaki, nauda naman, baga na sinunod. Yagaganahan sa Miss Gay, amuya corona, sash, burak, solusyon, paninom na alak, sagkod usad na gabiing pagkamuot kalalaki. My last poem is in page 99. Daragang Magayon, Transgender. The page 99. It's in English po. Yes. It's originally in English. Stripped off of the Panganoron Pagpuga amorous triangulation, she wanted the tits of her time, but unlike the Bangkok girls, hers was pure royalty magic. 34B, presumably, to be quaint and coquettish, and Maria Clara-esque until the women see her as one with them. So one night, amid macho thunderclaps and cerulean lightning bolts by the shore facing the Pacific, naked yet wrapped in gray, pillowy silk, she knelt down on both knees. With tears in her eyes and ashen hair wet from the mist, she prayed. Perhaps this isn't me. Perhaps this isn't mine. The wind calls my name, but it's not the same all the time. Let the truth from the skies above fall freely so I could catch a piece. So when I rise one day to thank you, I'd have a majestic peak and within a divine peace. And then a roar, a clap, a lightning streak was seen from oceans and mountains away. Tropical winds wafted the coconut trees, stripping her of her silken wrap until she lost breath. and collapsed, facing the skies with her long legs, sideways falling from kneeling, her arms high above her head. The next morning, her chest, a chest that has kept secrets for so long, grew a cone-shaped peak, a tip facing the skies.
Okay, anyone?
Pwede, Madam Chair, pwede natin ipa-explain kay Dean kung ano yung
This time mo na siya.
ng
This time mo na siya.
doon ang rinconada, sa
Okay,
Bicol. Yung rinconada sa Bicol at yung pagkakaiba. Intro lang muna, explain ko lang yung rinconada.
Kasi alam actually that's one of the my comments. Baka ano lang, Paolo, don't call it a dialect kasi Tuti Hernandez will grow furious over this. Kasi because Rinconada Bicol, according to studies of a UP linguist, Mr. Hernandez, Jesus, okay. Anyway, na ano daw, Rinconada Bicol is not just a dialect of mainstream Bicol language, but it is in itself a separate language. So it should not be called dialect, but a language.
So anong area siya sinasalita?
Tama naman ito. Southernmost towns of Kamsur and parts of some parts of Albay is not
Yes,
right.
the first few towns of
Yes. Of course, according to some historical research, this is actually the oldest of the two languages in Bicol. Rinconada daw is much older and nearer to Bisaya compared to the Naga Bicol that is near to Tagalog. So may mga ganong mga issue. Kasi ito talaga yung mga oldest settlements in Kamsur, they actually use Rinconada. If anyone, if you've seen my film yung Devotion, the Bicol that I use there is also Rinconada. It has a different vocabulary, it's a different accent, it uses a different accent. Actually ako, I can't speak Rinconada because I'm from Pili, but my father is from Buhi, which is part of Rinconada, so I can understand Rinconada. But when I speak Rinconada, they laugh at me because I don't have the accent, so I stop. But I can understand. So, may mga ganong Pero mas near siya to Bisaya.
Tukinaraya. Like bukko.
Oh, may mga ganyan lang. Yun. Actually, the way Paolo read it, ganda yung pagkakabasa niya. Yun ba?
Oo, yun.
So, should I comment now?
Yun lang para siya language.
Yeah, okay.
First off, I really enjoyed this suite. Pero I fell more in love with it when it was being read here. Because I don't know these languages, but hearing them being read to us makes it a very different experience. And I really commend actually the entire suite for the way it plays with different languages all at once. So we get to see the kind of linguistic diversity that the author has. So I love the imagery of Sailor Moon. It's so gay. Such childhood gay fantasy. I love it. I love the sound of it being read. My favorite poem here would probably be the Rinconada poem. For several reasons. When reading the original Filipino, it didn't, the translated Filipino, it didn't have the same sound, same beautiful sound that it had when it was being read in the original. And yun nga, it sounded very similar to Bisaya. So hearing it, oh my God, it makes so much sense with the thematics being handled, with the subjects being portrayed. The sound of it made it so very clear. Absolutely loved it. It's kind of stiff in the translation. So I guess that was what was lost. The very soft, not soft, the very fluid sound that went with the original. Love the images, love the language, but if I had to say something that I think really needs work on, I think it's more the structures of the English poems. Because I felt, especially some of the enjambments seemed pretty stiff. There could have been words that could have been dropped to the next line. Like, for example, intermission number, I was already cut when you said, she hugs herself cold ass. Then next line, she sits on a stool backstage. Well, that's my personal opinion, that I found the as jarring from the flow of the poem. I guess the English poems could be tightened a bit more, so they're clearer and they're less prosy. But maybe that's also a product of just the way it was cut, the way it was arranged. So that's my comment. I absolutely love this week.
Ano ko lang kay Tam, actually the first line, dapat the original is, sabi ko no ko mga bakla. Dapat siya sa Filipino ay, sabi daw ng mga bakla. Dapat yung puno, yun nawawala, dapat yung na-preserve yung sabi daw ng mga bakla. Yan yung kasi implication ng sa anyway, may authority agad or patutsada doon sa authority.
I may comment also ito. Next for one.
Go.
Just follow, because there's a really interesting project I completely forgot to talk about. I was just enjoying the sound. It's in the 15 hombres de I just find this poem an interesting project because the idea that the men are being listed. In a list poem, you're talking of objects, you're talking of, like, you're just categorizing them, there's a kind of reduction. Where the very irony of this is in listing them and making them into, organizing them into objects is at the same time within each part of the list is you're humanizing it at the same time. So I find that there's an interesting tension within the poem. I just felt near the end it could have been teased out more, something to tie the whole list together, to bring out that tension. But otherwise, this is one of the more interesting poems for me.
Sorry. Hey, Pao. I think your strength really is this strong sense of place, this rootedness that you have, that you don't have to be outrightly, this is me, parang it's, the sentiment is gleaned from how you write and how you incorporate it in your writing. For example, The Fall is so, the premise has been written about, has been written so many times, but because of your specificity and your juxtaposition of place in emotion, I think it gives it a refreshing twist. I like how each poem is like kind of like a slice of life vignette of some sort that creates the different colors of the rainbow, which I only learned this morning what it meant. And also one strong thing that you have is, we were talking about this, kami ni Alfie, that there is a way to make hugot elevated. And I think that you're successful in elevating that hugot, like with the Rafi and the treadmill. Diba? Parang you take, your hugot is nice because when the hugot that people criticize is that yung medyo discuss na, or parang, kasi the formula I see here, you're doing is hugot in the sense that you take a metaphor of something that's not normally related to love, and you turn it into something about a pining, and you do it here in refreshing ways. So then I just have minor comments. Across all of the poems, so I'll just get through it. In Sailor Moon, love the nostalgia, evoked not much to say because it's lovely. Yung 15 Hombres, it makes me contemplate on what each, I want to say synecdoche, but what each synecdoche of the lovers, what they mean. My favorite is Leon, yung Barbero. Ang ganda ng language. And how the metaphor of the hair is placed placed beside the literal. The metaphor of the hair is placed beside its literality. So I like how it made me think, and it's not really spoon-fed to me what each of the synecdoches really mean. And there's like an erotic thing at the end. I have more comments about the English poems because it's something I'm more familiar with, but so for example, in the Fag Hag, I was wondering if you lost your specificity there, which I really like, and I was wondering because if you replace the title with like anything else, the identity of the Fag Hag to me doesn't jump out. Parang to me it could be any other person speaking. Like there is nothing there to ground me about why this is titled as such and what she wants to say. And then city lights to me, I feel like there could be something done there to make it more. I feel like because these images that you used are are used already so often, and especially like in pop songs. So I feel like there's something that could be done there, just to change things up. And then yung Dragon Magayong transgender, I wonder if it's intentional, but the poem like changes structurally every stanza. Like the tone shifts so much. The italics, the prayer, diba, it is rhyme, and it sounds like a song or a prayer. And then because the diction and the tone changes. The narrative is singular, but the form that they take are so fragmented. And I wonder if it's intentional or maybe it just escaped from the original version. So those are some comments.
Before anything else, the first observation I made with regards to the whole suite is the variety of the themes that you explored. I thought that this was the strength of the collection. You literally went from talking about the childhood nostalgia to transitioning to what I assume is sex work, to true tender love, and I feel like this is what I personally look for usually in a collection, when the monotony does not only stem from the tone of the writing, but also from the thematic approach of each piece. This one definitely sticks out because apart from the fact that thematically it varies so much, I also noticed that even in languages, like for example in your English pieces, the tone of the writing can vastly change depending on what the pieces require. Like Daragang Magayon, transgender, has a very it has this weird quality to it that makes it feel like an exposition. I'm not sure if it is. I haven't really thought about it, but it has this authority to its reader. And then with City Lights, for example, suddenly or tender, the tone is more floaty and whatnot. Also, the one piece I like to focus on, because I find it the most interesting, is Quince Homeless, the Bicol 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong, is this about sex work?
It's not really. It's
All the possible tambays.
Oh, okay.
And then at the end there's hope that the bakla will end up with one of them.
Gotcha. Okay, I thought it's because they all could burn.
In other words, this is about walking.
Okay. So no economic trade-off. But essentially the same.
It's in Plaza 15 Martires.
Okay, gotcha.
15
Market ni ano yan ito.
It's from an external source naman.
Why deny it?
Somebody you guys know.
Kala ko
Somebody you guys know.
participant observation.
sa Cordero?
Sino ba ka?
Sorry, please.
Sorry.
Ayun, siguro I was overreading it when I thought that. Kasi usually, like in my hometown, I assume this to be true for all provinces, that sex workers tend to thrive in public squares. And I guess the assumption is because I thought lang, this is me stepping into the visa, pero I thought lang na if it were about sex work, I would have appreciated the fact that in agreement with TD, that there is a humanized narrative for each of them, no matter how nugget the introductions were. But other than that, yes, it is, since it is not about that, and it's about booking, I still appreciate the fact that the men were not simply objectified by the qualities of their aesthetic. Like, yes, merong mga descriptive elements regarding their kilikili or their tattoos, but then it went on to, provide some narrative background on who they are as people, I guess. At least from a semi-stereotypical standpoint. But even that is, to me, successful. So, congratulations for the connection.
I'd like to echo the sentiments of the other fellows na nakaka-excite siyang basahin yung poetry suite kasi para siyang boodle fight or diba? Parang, parang boodle, parang nandiyan na sa'yo tapos parang there's this rootedness, there's this grittiness to the pieces na parang kinakamay mo talaga siya dapat kainin yung mga tula. Tapos, may makasundaan na. Anyways, tapos, in the same way, I like the specificity of a lot of the pieces that you employed, as well as the nostalgic factor, Sailor Moon. Tapos, nung binasa ko na yung first piece, parang nasa mind ko, inaabangan ko na parang di ko talaga gagamitin ko si Jollibee eh. Pero, parang malapit na magkaka-Jollibee. Ganyan. Pero anyways, it's fun. I can see your playfulness, not only in terms of the languages that you've used, but also the situations, the themes, as Alfonso has said. I also like the Kinsa Opres de Bicol kasi nakakatuwa siyang basahin. It's a very, very different piece. May pagkakataloging na may parang inventory na multiple choice in the end. So nakakatuwa talaga siya. For me lang, I guess I'd like to echo Nico din, na with regards to English pieces, like for example, yung dun sa Fag Hag, Eye the Sky and You the Sea, and City Lights, I think nawala yun nga, yung the charming specificity and playfulness. I think they are tender pieces. Pero parang medyo nag-fade ka dun sa 3 pieces na yun. Nawala ka. Tapos di din mas nadaragang magayon, transgender. I'm not sure if this is an epic, parang inspired by an epic. Kasi marami akong narinig mga daragang sa atin, sa mga epiko natin. Pero it's a very interesting reinvention. Although I'm not quite very adept in terms of the transgender experience and all. Pero perhaps I would have liked to see more of that very, very intense politics sa piece. Masala na you're using very loaded and powerful stuff here. So parang I like the daring and the risk. Pero perhaps it could have been elevated a bit, in my opinion. Pero yeah, yun siya. Tapos nakakabilib na talaga na you're very open to using all of those languages in your arsenal, something that I've never attempted pa. Kasi parang, gamitin nga natin kung ano yung naaalam natin. And one of the things din na, I think I mentioned it in another fellow before na hinanap ko rin is how your other languages sort of integrate with each other. Like in your English pieces, medyo hindi ko na haplos yung pagka Bicolano mo or yung language na alam mo na Bicolano or yung Tagalog na perhaps it could have permeated through a bit para lumabas ka pa lumabas ka ulit dun sa mga piyesa na yan. Salamat.
Mike. Okay. Hi, Kuya Pao. Pareho kami ni Kuya Alfie ng sentiment na what I really love about this suite is the variety ng vibe. May mga points na fun, may mga dramatic, there's tragic, very romantic, yung iba nakaka-arouse, and then may mga mystical, and then very relatable kasi especially yung dalawang points na 15 Hombres de Bicol, yung you're able to sustain the attention of the reader kahit na mahaba siya as a poem. Pero relate ako dito kasi tumatambay din ako sa plaza, back in my hometown. Kasi like, nakikita ko yung self ko dito sa tula, yung gay person na parang kind of naghihintay kasi at saka parang marami kang options. And then I like na na-humanize yung mga yung mga guys dito kasi usually me and my friends would just look at guys like just for one night stand, mga ganun. So may heart yung dito, yung mga tsaka may character yung mga guys na nagamit dito, na mention dito sa may poem. And then since na nagpa-pageant din ako, very relate ako dito sa ang mapapanalunan sa Miss Gay. At while binabasa ko to, naaalala ko yung mga experiences ko in the past pageants wherein yung mga ibang candidates after the pageant, mawawala sila bigla o parang gano'n. Kasi like, very rural yung appeal na sa akin. And then, yung sa Sailor Moon, while binabasa ko to, visualize ko na sparks and lights and unicorns. It's very gay in a fun way. That's why I like it. And then, yung The Fall, I like yung progression niya from using the, I don't know kung ruta to ng mga jeep.
Towns.
Towns. Yung progression niya from using the towns up to their last ride together. And very dramatic yung last part na while in mid-air, yun yung sinabi niya. It was you all along, the one that I love the most, something like that. And then, the fag hag. What I like about this one is that yung comparison ng sex versus romance, tsaka yung body versus heart, parang ganun. Yun yung analysis ko or yung reading ko nung tula. And then, I, the sky, and you, the sea. I like the lines that although we meet at the receding horizon in the eyes of someone at the shore, we never truly met as it comes closer. Yung fact na in-involve mo yung person na parang ginamit mo yung third person point of view to parang na-involve siya dito sa sa poem. I like that. And then yun lang. I really enjoyed this suite. It's especially yung sa plaza at saka yung sa may pageant kasi relate ako. Oh, I miss my hometown.
Hello, pare.
Hello, strange.
Ganda. Baklang-bakla. Baklang-bakla siya. Tuwan-tuwa ako dito sa dalagang magay transgender. Nananahimik yung vulkan, pinakla mo. Pasabog. Saka
May labi siya nag-abroad.
ngayon po kasi hindi lang siya bakla yung mga tema, pati yung pagkakasulat kasi parang nagpasikat ka eh. Parang kaya ko magsulat sa Bicolano, kaya ko sa Liconada, kaya ko sa English, kaya ko sa Tagalog. Kapugera! Parang kumula talaga. Galing, ganda. Apo na siguro, bakit ang umbrella title mo, libingan ng mga baghari? Parang bilibingan at patay, binuhay mo nga yung baghari. Yun lang siguro.
Start speaking na. Pwede na. Pero pa, baka Marvin, the other Bicolano poet.
Okay. With regard to the title of this Wait, I think it was titled Lolobngan or Lolobngan ng mga bayani because...
Dawani.
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 ang sabi ko.
Bayani ang sabi mo.
Kaibigan ng mga bayani.
Sorry. Okay, I think it was titled because yung mga Dawani or yung mga haghari are represented by the gay people. And kung tinitignan ko yung collection, it's as if to me, like, if I am not born in Bicol, tapos papasahin ko itong collection, parang siyang tour guide. Bakla ako na turista, tapos itinuturo ako nito to look for a booking. Parang gano'n. That's how I see it. Lalo na ang unang-unang quadricentennial dome agad, di ba? Ang gandang spot. Though hindi siya gaano advisable dahil it's a church in front
of the Naga Cathedral.
In front of the Naga Cathedral. So nakakahiya naman. Pero sa may dulo-dulo noon, medyo magagandang spots. Yun, 15 Martires is a plaza which when I was in college also in Naga, minsan din akong tumambay and yun, it was not that productive kasi ang lumapit sa akin, hindi naman sabi ng babae, Kuya, chicks ka, magchi-chicks ka. Yung gano'n, lumayo ka. Sikuhin kita. I remembered a lot of things dito sa and parang the male characters na binanggit niya, yung mga pangalan, are also the same names ng mga, pwede niyang, kung papalitan niya, kumuha siya ng pangalan doon sa mga pangalan ng mga martyr doon sa Okay, kasi I did the same doon sa ang prinsesa at ang gabi ng pananalaki ni Jopay sa may salay doon sa kwento. Ang ginamit ko, yung 12 lalaki naman na kinain ng ni Jopay are the 12 disciples of or this apostles of Jesus, parang gano'n. Pinagkukuha ko doon sa mga pangalan nila. So medyo may kaanuhan yun. Yan, ang ganda kasi napaka-broad ng tema. Ito lang isa, I think it's appropriate. Pero ang alam ko kasi talaga, papunta dun sa may southern Kamsur, they call it pinangat. Pero pinaka-common sa atin yung tinuktok na ginagamit. So it's your decision kung alin yung gagamitin mo. And wala naman akong ganong problema. Kasi everything naman is, well, eto, lalong maganda yung rock and roll na walang asukal. Kahit medyo sad yung sa hulihan, pero maganda pa rin yung basa ko. Tapos itong Eye in the Sky, nakikita ko din yung kaninang collection ko dito. And yeah, we look forward to reading more of your works na susunod.
Siguro, just an additional info for the group. Dawani in Bicol, according to legend, is the mother of Tagalog Magayo.
Pwede i-queer talaga si Magayon kasi may rainbow connection. May rainbow connection siya. Yeah, who else would like to speak of fellows? King, yes.
Well,
Suwabe ng boses ni King, diba?
I actually... I actually share the same sentiments with Marvin, being that my father is from Bicol, but I have not been there for 8 years now. And it feels like I am being taken for a tour around the region. And yung pinaka-na-enjoy ko dito, it's an enjoyable collection for me. Although I was never a fan of Sailor Moon, I want to watch it now. That's the first one pa lang. This is a very gay one. It's very fun, it's very playful. And I think this sets the mood for the entire collection. And yung playfulness na yun, I think it just wanes down sa mga English forms. And it was strongest, I find, dun sa poem na The Fall, page 91. Kasi parang yung sa last 4 lines, yung nire-imagine niya yung being with this guy na you're driving off a cliff. And ito yung statement niya, it was you all along, the one I loved the most. And yung pinapakita ng mga images doon of special slogan na yun sa people. It's very Bicolano. It's, yung last 4 lines is like subverting the action and violence na na-represent ng men in uniforms into a fantasy na parang this is the last person I get to see before I die. Yung dun sa 15 Ombas, ni Bicol, 2015, I like the listing that. It reminds me na parang siguro ganito yung writing process ni Taylor Swift when he writes about his guys. Yeah. And yun lang, tying them all down in one place. Siguro I want more cohesiveness from this poem dun sa last stanza. Kasi I just wanna know why. Pero since may context na naman why they are there, siguro pakikinisplay na lang yun dito sa tonight. I like the sentiments naman. Also this one, City Lights, 98. Gusto ko yung imagery na ginagamit na use of light sa pag-reflect ito sa mukha at sa mata. Although I want more lights, parang playing with light. Kasi, especially with the eyes, if you look deeply, you start deeply into a person's eyes, nakita mo yung sarili mo, parang gano'n. And so, parang it becomes a reflection of the person or something like that. I want to see more depth in that essence. So that's all. Thank you.
I'm really sorry, Marvin, that I didn't make it to your session. I blame my alarm clock. I didn't hear it. But there is a link, I think, between your collection and this one by Paolo, in the sense, not just the language link, of course, you're both from Bicol and you have Bicolano poems here. I think it's that something to think about, that when we write in English, immediately we are bringing with us a whole cosmology, right, of experiences that the language itself makes available. Which is a good thing, because suddenly the choices you have for allusions, for imagery, for objects would be actually bigger, right? But then the risk to that is you end up sort of probably forgetting your own situation, and you kind of dream along with the language, you know. I think whether you write in English or in Bicolano or Filipino, if you're bakla in the Philippines, your own bakla experience will be the foundation of your sort of art. But what happens is, when you write in English, you're translating it. If you write in Bicol, and that's your native language, then somehow, while you still translate, because experience needs to be translated into art, the translation is actually more or less a short. The commute or the travel from one point to the other is shorter, and you don't just get distracted too much, right? Because you're actually still working within your language. So the rootedness in the two collections is very clear, and I'm thinking in particular of what both collections say about the bakla, and what the English collections say about the bakla, because they're also written by bakla, right? Okay. The idea of desire may be different between the two, because implicit in the poems in English is this egalitarian model, which is very modern, of symmetrical love between the lover and the beloved. In the bakla poems in the native languages, clearly the traditional model of asymmetrical love is in place, in the sense that the bakla desires the lalaki, and the lalaki has to be urged to love the bakla back. Do you understand? Or encouraged, or given incentives. Well, I was just going to say, just bottom line, bribed, or paid, recompensed. Has to be recompensed, right? The best part in Marvin's collection is the very last two lines. Yung sayo ay sayo, kanyang-kanya ba yun?
Yes.
Wow, that's very powerful. That is the bakla I told you, I coined this phrase erotic self-sufficiency, which is what burdens the bakla world in the sense that we need to look to the straight male world for erotic satisfaction. We are not self-sufficient within ourselves, no? Within the bakla world. If you turn to another bakla for affection, in the indigenous bakla framework, that is an abomination. Right? We call, there are all these different terms, being used like kumakain ng sariling laman, cannibalism, incest, unay, di ba mga ganyan, di ba? There is some kind of judgment, right? But see that the poems in English, the beloved is gay too, right? Do you understand that? It's a very nice, interesting thing to think about, no? So what you see in this collection is probably better fleshed. It has more variety to the sequence that was produced by Marvin, which is really parang wonderful little, almost like epigrammatic pieces, right? Very short poems, no? With one central, basically an extended metaphor of a bird, no? But it's the bakla speaking, and kita mo naman talaga that asymmetry, right? Here, the asymmetry is here, but it's recognized, but at the same time, there's the insistence for the bakla to keep his dignity despite it. Diba? Kasi what are we talking about? The slavish fascination of the bakla with the lalaki. Slavish fascination, right? Bordering on slavishness. Slavish, right? What you can mine that for all sorts of poetic possibilities. Because I think the bakla, despite being symbolically lower than the lalaki, is most of the time the one with actual economic power. Right? Siya yung nakakabayad, siya yung may pera, yung lalaki yung parang bayaran. Pero within the relationship, yung lalaki yung mas mataas, which is a kind of really strange sort of paradox in a way. It begins with a wonderful, very relatable bakla experience of role-playing or playing. So these are the Sailor Moon poems would be, I can imagine, mga Becky, mga what do we call these young Beckies? Archuletas. Ah, wow. Well, that's a new word. We would just call them dinglets before. But dinglets, the dinglets would be, the badettes, would be, naglo-role-playing sila in this plaza in front of the church. And so that's the sacred and the profane. But then it's very innocent because these are children, right? Appropriating this space and being completely carefree without realizing that when they grow up, that this is something, the contradiction is something they will see, right? Now, the poet, Paulo, sees the contradiction, but the actual characters do not. So that's a wonderful sort of irony that the poems have. Actually, marirepeat yung strategy na yun. Yung 15 Hombres de Bicol, yung mga lalaki na to, kala nila sila yung mga bongga, sila yung mga macho, sila yung mga bida. Pero sila yung pinagpipilian. Diba? May power yung bading, makakapili siya. Sino ba type niya? Naka-display to lahat. But each one in his own mind is actually parang superior, right? But the real sort of relationship is the bakla is the one who decides. That's Paulo recognizing it, when in fact on the ground that's not what people think. You understand that the artist is actually alienated from this community in a way, but you're actually part of it too. I'm sure na umada ka na rin in that fashion, no? Yeah.
Not so plaza.
Oh, hindi sa plaza, okay. Pero see, ganun, maganda yung ating strategy, no? If we're artists, participant observation, but with some distance, right? So may ethnographic project yung suite, kasi kinukuha niya yung mga local experiences, local realities, tapos nire-represent niya from his own perspective. He's also a participant in it. No? Except in this case, not necessarily. No? Hindi sa plaza na to, sa ibang plaza.
Madaming plaza.
Sa ibang hometown. Kasi mahirap sa sariling hometown. Wala kami kakilala. Okay. But the variety in this poem, in the suite, is really between public and private. Because these are public poems, in a way I would say, but there are private poems, the love poems. No? In particular, the very powerful one for me would be The Fall. Because this is already different. Now, this is Paulo, I suppose, who's no longer entirely rooted in this bakla reality, because Paulo seems in this poem to have fallen in love with a friend who's gay as well. And parang nabibwisit siya kasi yung friend na yun is always fantasizing about other men, talking about other men. But actually, parang tayo na lang. Right? It's interesting. It's a wonderful moment that's been captured there. And you wrote it originally in English? Okay. I don't want to insist on this. I like the idea that we have 4 languages in this collection. But then, try to see if you can render some of the other poems that you originally wrote in English or Filipino back to Bicol. And then translate naman the other that originally written in Bicol to all. Meaning, make the translation go in every direction. Right? And maybe in your collection, just choose the ones that feels best. Di ba? Parang gano'n. That would be interesting too. If only we were so talented. No? 4 ang languages ni Paolo. Kakaloka. Kakaingit. Okay? What else? Gusto ko yung really offhand metaphor of the treadmill. The speaker identifies with the treadmill. So si Rafi, yung speaker na treadmill, tapos yung kinakausap niya, siguro yung love niya, yung beloved, right? Na kita mo na kagad kung anong pananaw niya sa sarili niya, parang sinaapakan lang siya, ginagamit siya, di ba parang gano'n? At napapagod din siya, yung ending niya. So the bakla realizes that I can only be an ATM for so long. Right? After a while, hinto na itong ATM, magpo-close account. Di ba? Ano pa? Yung Miss Gay, well, again, very ethnographic, no? And that's really an experience of many trans women in the Philippines, no? Who join in beauty pageants, is that they actually do, this is an occasion, it's a social network in a way, di ba? Kasi you meet people, right? And you see that irony nga, parang Miss Gay yan, no? It's entertainment, but the men, yung mga tamba, yung mga regular sort of, so what are we saying about Filipino men, straight men? They are doable. Diba yun? By and large, doable. But it's a function of their education and their ability to be self-aware. Because if they start thinking about that, see if you learn, this is our, okay, we would say it na here, this is radical work we're doing, but at the same time we have to realize that we're actually pushing away some of the things we wish to embrace. The more we become, the more LGBT discourse mainstreams itself, and the more Filipinos start pondering these issues, then the less fluidity there may end up existing in our society, behavioral, sexual behavior fluidity, because you're going to start having more categories, and people are going to worry. These men will start worrying about the implications of what they're doing. So maybe, huwag na tayo, tumahimik na lang tayo, mag-enjoy. I actually heard an older gay man say that, na nung nalaman nila nag-activist, sabi, ano ba problema ninyo? Tahimik na lang. Di ba masaya naman? Parang ganun yung kanyang sentiment. And I realized, totoo, generational siya. Siguro sa ating generation, hindi na tayo makapwedeng tumahimik. Diba? Pero ang laki ng parang attraction ng pananahimik dun sa mga older bakla. Kasi yun na yung kinagulatan nila. Tsaka happy naman sila. Diba? Bakit natin maginagawa ito? Nakakapap na. Baka mawala. Ito yung mga lalaki. Baka bigla sasabihin nila, ayoko na. It is, you understand? It's a double-edged sword. You bring into consciousness what used to be just wordless. Right? And then with that bringing into consciousness will be self-awareness. And the self-awareness is going to bring in some of the phobias and paranoias which come with sexological mentality. So we're sexologizing our culture by bringing in the discourse. No? For me, it's not something we can help. It's the way the world is going. It's moving towards that sort of global awareness, right, of sexuality and rights and things like that. And my own sense about it is we need to do it. For example, sexual harassment, right, which is a new discourse. But it recognizes what's been happening. Good thing we have it, right? But it's also going to make paranoid and sort of potentially, we're going to lose some of the pleasures of that sort of sexual innocence in a way, sexual no awareness of it, no? By bringing in sexual harassment, people are not, the behavior that used to be just parang lambing, right? We have indigenous categories, lambing, tukso, would now be more paranoid kasi may sexual harassment. You understand? It's the same thing, no? That's the parallel that's happening. Now, ang pinaka-weird na poem for me is the fag hag. Because the speaker seems to be the gay man who speaks to the fag hag. Yung ba yun? Or the fag hag speaking to the gay man? Speaking to the gay man. Na all I can give you is my heart. Nothing more. All I can give who? The fag hag? The gay friend?
The gay man.
Hindi, baliktad. The fag hag is a woman, the poor, hopeless woman who falls in love with a gay friend.
Yes.
Tapos sasabihin niya na I can give you my heart, huh? And she normally wants to sleep with a friend.
Usually the father is not in love. Barkada lang naman the...
Okay, it's a different experience. Yeah, pero kasi many fag hags actually fall in love with their gay friends. So it's probably a different experience. So I found that strange. Now, the mytho-poetic project of Dalagang Magayon and turning Dalagang Magayon queer, that's very interesting for me. Siguro ang naging problema kasi written in English siya, para nawala yung kanyang flavor. Try to render this in Bicol and see where that takes you. Alright, so I think that basically I love the collection because of its temerity, right? There is that, not calling, basically, well, it's voyeurism in a way, it's sort of looking at these things, no, and sort of exposing them. And then you are responsible to your subject because you are part of this world, right? And if you create, and if your work creates harmful effects, kasama ka sa maapektuhan, pag nawala na itong mga ombre na to, kakadaldal mo, wala ka na rin, di ba? Tagtigang ka na rin, tagtuyuan, di ba? No, but it's something for us to think about, no? That the local being represented, no? In our writing. If we write in English, the path of translation is a longer one. But if you write in your own language, the local is immediately evoked, right? Just the word, one word, will take probably 2 sentences in English, or maybe a paragraph, diba? To approximate it, just one word, right? You just drop that word, the local word, that's it. For the English writers have to evoke, have to use metaphors, have to do more things, right? Sa inyo, one word lang, i-drop mo, yun na i-drop. That's the thing itself. Okay, alright, well, congratulations, Paolo. It's quite a wonderful treat to read the whole collection. Kasi nga, iba-iba yung languages niya. Tapos, yung experiences niya, public-private, may oscillation siya, public-private. And then, the modern gay and the local bakla, you know, and how you are in between, I would say. Grew up bakla, Bicolano, like talagang rooted, and then your education and your probably migrating to Manila has given you this other perspective. So now you are a bit of an outsider looking, but you also have a claim to this world, no? So I wish we all had that sort of wonderful ambivalence. Many of us are just like, sorry, we're one world lang. No, siya maraming worlds, no? Yeah, write some more. Write maybe fiction pa, right? And in every genre, kasi yung material mo marami. Pareho ni John, actually, no? Kasi ganun ka rin, di ba? Kasi putaching na dito sa Manila. Kasi inyo hindi masyadong putaching. Medyo putaching din.
Pero may finesse lang.
Oo. No, that's always been my envy of friends coming from Mindanao and the Visayas who actually nagwawala dito. Tapos closeted pa where they come from. Like friends from Iligan, gano'n din. Pero dito nagwawala. Sabi ko, paano kami? Dito na kami. Saan kami pupunta para magwala? Sige, sa mga plaza nilang ng mga hometown ninyo, di ba? No, but it's not the same eh. Diba? Kasi dito mas malaking, maraming pipilian. Doon, yun lang. Anyway, so I'm just kidding. But thank you, Paolo. Thank you so much.
Kasi mag 5 minutes na.
Ako din. Hindi. Ako sinabi na eh.
Okay.
Oo, nasabi ko na lahat. So, so nadagdagan ko na lang. Kasi,
Can
kaya
you talk about filmmaking and how it is like
halimbawa, yung Sailor Moon.
cinematic yung
Oo,
ibang
Sailor
scenes.
Moon.
May mga scenes siya eh.
Yeah, yung Sailor Moon actually na sa Tahaw kan Centennial Dome is very visual. Halimbawa yung sa end, yung sa aga, sa Tahaw kay yung patio, si Ina. So there's the scene of the Sailor Moon, it's erased, tapos replaced by the religious procession. Yun din kasi
Yung Devotion, yun ang nangyari, di ba?
doon.
Have you seen this film, Devotion? Has anyone seen it?
Nasa iFlix. Anyway.
No, can I just say,
Okay, bro.
because it's really the Ragang Magayon and the Peña Francia being first pitted against each other, but then finally reconciled. Because in the end, Alvin's thesis is that on a mythic level, they are the same image. So in the end, you have Paulo Avellino's character who became more or less bewitched by the Ragang Magayon, but also going to that procession and seeing, upon looking at the image of Ina, remembering the Ragang Magayon, they are the same. Diba?
Yes.
They are both feminine deities. Yes. So here, yun na nga, pagdating ni Ina, siya rin si Sailor Moon.
Yes. Tsaka what's interesting about this piece is, yung plaza, plaza ba tawag dyan? Doon sa tapat ng sa Siban Patio, dyan usually nagpa-park ang mga school bus ng mga sa Kolehiyo de Santa Isabel, hindi na Kolehiyo, Universidad na ngayon, Ateneo de Naga. Pinagdaan ko rin kasi ito, nag-school bus ako. So, dyan parati nagpa-park yung mga tao. So, itong mga batang ito, talagang mga Beckies talaga to. So, dala-dala yung kanilang mga trolley, papasok na sa kanilang school bus kasi dumating na yung school bus. Although hindi mo dito pinansin, pero that's the implication ng mga bata ito na baka Naga Parochial School. Naga Parochial School is an all-boys school right behind the Naga Cathedral. At saka yun. So pag mag-aaral ka doon, or I also went, doon ka magpa-park sa school bus yung nandun sa tapat ng Naga Cathedral. So parang ganun yung extent. Anyway, going back to you, kaya gusto ko yung title ng ng gay anthology na Ladlad. Parang gayness as, kanina kasi yung connected kay Marvin, yung gayness here as, or di sa rural, ay performance. It's a performance. At yung lalaki, to answer your question, is just part of the performance.
Props lang siya.
Yeah. Lalo na doon sa beauty pageant. Ayun. Kaya grabe yung radical din yung talaga yung pagtingin talaga doon sa gays. Pero more siya eh. Having said that, mas gusto ko pa na mas dumami yung mga tula dito na tungkol sa public spaces at kung paano kini-queer yung public spaces. Kasi yung Plaza Kings Martires, yung Dome, yung Dragon Magayon. Yeah.
May mga booking sa simbahan.
Oo,
Hindi naman nangyayari lang sa labas. Pero sa loob.
Yes. Ito actually, Daraga Magayon, the way I imagine it, parang nangyayari siya sa Embarcadero. Kasi nagdadrama siya eh. Parang, hail to the gods of thunder, etc. Tapos bigla naging siya. Because Embarcadero from that part of Legazpi, there's actually a beautiful a site of Daraga Magayon. Para talaga siya kita-kita talaga yung so talagang, baka more of that, yung how the public space here is queer.
Pero yung love poems na gender din. Actually, yung mga love poems. Pag-ugot straight from experience.
Very recent.
Ito, Rona.
Paano ako sa speak na ito? Kasi yung range, no, not only in terms of languages, but in terms of, tonal registers. Diba? Mayroon lang super, may campy, may ironic, mayroong sweet, mayroong masakit, lahat siya nandiyan na cover niya. So, I like to flesh into that. ano ko lang, pansin ko lang, maybe it's just me, parang pinakamahina yung mga English poems. Kasi doon siya parang may mga cliches, di ba? Yung particularly when the persona waxes poetic, or when he tries to express his, sentiments, doon nagiging parang medyo tumatagilid yung collective, yung mga tula, no? Hindi ako, gusto ko yung the fall. Kasi, di ba, that's a very common gay narrative, di ba? Yung if you desire your friend, may ganun na yung, pero yung sa ending, it was you all along, don't I love you most. Hindi ako sure kung meron pang, baka may linya pang bastagan. No? Same sentiment, but a different rendering. Para mas powerful. Diba? Kasi minsan nawawala yung potency ng tula kung may pagka-cliche or may kahugot na ang pagkakadeliver.
Wall out siya eh.
Oo.
Medyo restraint na quantify.
Oo, medyo konting no? Tapos yung sa, ano pa ito? Yung, tapos may mga parts sa English din, no? Yung mga tense. Siguro, kantigan natin, nag-shift tayo, no? Yung prelude, gusto ko yung ending, okay? Ang ganda-ganda. Tapos yung tag-hag, ito yung pinakamahina para sa akin. No? Cliché siya. Yung mga marami siyang cliché. All I can give you is my heart, my mind's best friend, my soul's dwelling. Siguro pwedeng i-reimagine yung eksena, no? At yung linya, kasi medyo cliché nga no? So, yun ang kailangan kasi city lights, gusto ko yung ending din, enough to light an entire city. Hindi ako sure about measured by the hint of sparks. So, hint lang ba or what? I mean, I invite the writer to reframe that line. Tsaka yung for someone we long to spend forever with, yung may mga ganung mga linya na para sa akin, nabawasan yung power. Kasi ang ganun, para sa akin, yung first stanza, carry, Tapos yung second, so to lead to that ending, nagdaganda enough to light an entire city, diba? Tsaka nag-stick kasi yung linya, lumulutang siya. Talagang may illumination. Diba? Yung para sa akin, perfect yung choice, yung form. Pero to lead to that, yung how to get there, I think is something that the poet needs to address. Diba? Para hindi siya, let's not mar it with a cliche or, with trite lines, let's try to do away with them to give the poem the potency, it deserves. Because the poems here are so wonderfully written, meron siyang may consciousness na yung yung gusto ko sa kanya meron consciousness, may self-awareness, yung mga person, yung author. At na-translate yun dito sa mga personate na ginagawa niya. Yun. So, I look forward to, this as part of a larger collection. Congratulations.
Please lang to dahil sa ating natin Sir Neil. Kaya dapat talaga laging inugulis si Dr. Garcia sa class nito. Yung collection na ito ay magandang itampal sa collection Steve. Steno, no? Kasi yung kay Steno, urban, gay culture, ito naman rural. So, napahalagahan ko ito, dahil tahok na tahok ang mga tula ng bakla sa Pilipinas ng ganitong eksena. Ang lagi ko nababasa ay mga galing Manila, Metro Manila, o mga syudad. Pagkamat syudad pa rin yung iba dito, pero syudad na hindi sa Metro Manila. At napahalagahan ko rin yung old-fashioned na pagrampa ng cruising. Kasi kay Steno, online na, gamit ng teknolohiya. Gustong-gusto kong retain, sana pa hintunutan ako ni Paolo, sa klasiko, ang ilan sa mga tula mo, dahil ito ay magandang itambal sa ginawang pananaliksik ni Edson Cabalvin, na gumawa ng isang napakagandang saliksik tungkol sa malapak, entitled na Malapak Lang Espasyo. Paano ba ang mga espasyo ay nagiging malapakla? no, tulad ng basketball court, ang overpass, no, ang mga simbahan, mga multi-purpose hall. No, dito, gagamitin mga sinihan, no, na ang mga walang kasariang mga espasyo ay nagiging malapakla dahil nagkakaroon ng iba't ibang mga tungkulin o kampanya. No, basketball court, di naman talaga basketball court yun, no? Nag-iiba-iba rin yun, no? Pwedeng maging jangge, di ba? Mga beauty pageant, at tambayan, ibang klase ng tambayan, no? At ang gusto ko rin, no, sa collection mo, pagpunta to, no, punto, masaya. No? Dahil kasama ko si Camilo sa isang workshop, 2 dekada na nakakaraan, di ba Camilo, sa Palihang Panula. Meron doon isang tula ang title Myla. Na-publish ko ba yun sa ano? Hindi yata, Myla. Ganito rin yung tula no? Tungkol sa pageant, no? Ang ganda-ganda ng ano, no? Ng,
Sino nagsulat?
si Paul Del Rosario.
Paul.
Di ba, Myla? No? Ganito rin no? Ang ganda itambal, no? Hiramin ko yung ano, gagawin ko ng essay. No, nagsimula sa swimsuit, long gown, tapos question and answer. Tapos sa bandang huli, napakalungkot. No? Nanalo nga ako, pero ako pa rin ay isang Myla. Ang ibig sabihin ng Myla ay may lawit, tapos may pang gaga. No? May lawit gaga. Dito naman sa tula mo, ang saya. No?
Kasi malalaki.
Kasi nanalo ako, pero nanalo ako ng ipawusok nila. No, ang layo na, so ang ganda na ng pagbabago. No? Sa loob ng 2 dekada, nagbago na rin yung perspektiba natin, no, ng beauty pageant na hindi ito kalungkutan, no, ito ay pagdiriwang. Kaya, congratulations.
Okay na ako.
Good morning ulit, and again, sobrang humbling ang experience na ito for me who's been pushing at the fore the importance of the voices ng probinsyano sa diskurso ng queer. On a lot of layers, I think ang gusto ko lang maipabatid, it's basically the importance of kasi Sailor Moon is really in that sort of eksena. And admittedly, the English poems, I'm not supposed to submit them. The love poems. I just felt that I submitted them because I wanted to show range. But I admittedly, I wanted the Dalagang Magayon to be wala siya sa dulo. I wanted it to be next to somewhere along the pageant perspective. And super thank you on a lot of the comment that I received. It's a humbling experience to be here. We provided feedback by, of course, Direct Vim Yapan and Sir Jamie, among others. And the most important thing for me right now, I think, is to remember Bicol as the most bading space, I think, in the Philippines because, diba, sa amin galing si Venus Ra, si Miriam Kiambao, Catriona Gray, Rachel Peters, Nora Honor. So all these icons, states the fact that like, it's a really bakla. So, yeah, bakla. And if you change just some of the syllables, yeah, so yun. Alright, thank you.
Pero dagdag ko doon, for some reason, hindi nagkakaroon ng spa.
Exactly.
Kasi pag may nagsaspa doon, bigla, binabahay ng lahat ng mga bakla yung mga. So nawawala yung mga... Ginagarahe ang nag-close up. Oo, nag-close up yung spa. Wala talaga. Kaya the only way to cruise there is plaza. Wala.
Kaya hindi kailangan, kasi may plaza kayo.
Pero yan ako doon ako.
Yung simbahan lang, hindi na kailangan.
Doon talaga yung cruising spot. Wala. Kasi since Paolo mentioned about queering Bicolandia, that's one peculiar thing in being a Depser. Both in Naga and Legazpi, you don't get to have that experience. Hindi ka tulad sa Baguio, ang Baguio namin eh. O, di ba? At doon wala. Wala talaga.
Massage parlor.
Yung massage parlor.
Massage parlor. Even gay bars.
Hindi kailangan, kasi may plaza.
Text. Meron mga text.
Text mo na lang.
Text na sila.
Huwag na kayo manalangin, mas maganda na kayo.
Oo,
Huwag lang yung baguhin, mas maganda ka sa plaza.
Face to face.
Mas democratic.
Narapang agad sa plaza.
Pero meron online.
Grindr is very active there.
Wala nang Mag-send niya.
May 10%.
Nag-share talaga.
No, but another thing to think about is this, the dissonance of the sacred and the profane. Because this is a good example of it. Are you aware of the Tondo's Santo Niño procession?
Yes.
And how strange it is? Hindi naman nakahubad, pero it starts, the fiesta of Tondo is the same as the Sinulog. That's the third Sunday of January. The Holy Child is the oldest Catholic devotion in the country, and it has many versions up and down the archipelago. The one in Tondo is also very old, and it's interesting because the Saturday before the Sunday is the grand procession of the Santo Niño. It starts at 3 p.m. and ends at midnight. Basically, the whole of Tondo participates in it, and the procession is made up of different segments. Para siyang parade, and each segment may be defined. The segments may be defined according to district or barangay or even calle or street or professions or even businesses. So the gyms would have their own representative. Meron sila isang segment, yung mga gyms. Yung firemen will have their own segment. The beauticians will have their own segment. Each segment will have its own Santo Niño on a carroza or a float. And you will see the Santo Niño as a Barbie doll, dressed accordingly, meaning appropriate to the segment and what it represents. So the firemen, their Santo Niño, would be many Santo Niños on a mini fire truck. Yung mga Santo Niño na naka-fireman hat, tsaka naka-coat na may mga hose, yun yung Santo Niño nila. Yung mga basketballista, yung mga liga, yung Santo Niño float nila is a mini basketball court. May mga Santo Niño na may mga crown ha, naka-jersey at nagdi-dribble, nagle-layup. I don't know kung saan nila pinapagawa yung mga Santo Niño figures na yan. But they look nice. They're not like paper mache. They're probably resin or wood even, as talagang sculpted. The British Santo Niño is Moulin Rouge. Like, isa lang siyang Santo Niño, pero naka-feather boa siya. Tapos super bongga yung kapa niya, ang laki-laki, parang bongga-bongga. And it's an occasion for booking, basically. So, our friend is a teacher in UST who owns a house. Whose house is actually on the street, just very near the church. Dadaan yung procession doon kasi normally, a neighbor of his, who's rich and sort of like traditional elite of Tondo, gets to judge. Kasi gina-judge mo yung parade, different points of the procession, may mga nagja-judge. So humihinto sa harap ng bahay niya. So lagi may balcony yung bahay niya, so yung lahat ng mga friends yung bading invited. Na nakakaloka kasi marami kami teachers, iba-ibang lugar ng Manila, mga more or less mga 30-something, 40-something, mga 50-something na nagtitilian ng mga teacher na nando sa balcony. Kasi mga cute guys are like sumasayaw sa baba. Tapos you have to be prepared with a calling card. Kasi pag may na-type ka, baba ka lang, bigay kang calling card. Because after the procession is done, inuman na. Diba? Booking. Booking na. Booking talaga siya. So it's, the poor holy child has no idea that he has been appropriated in such a variety of ways. Right? And that the feast in his honor is really a bacchanalia. And an orgy, really. Well, hindi naman, booking one-on-one, may nag-orgy din, I'm sure. Pero talagang ganun siya. So you understand how weird it is, how dissonant it is, but then the people there don't think it's dissonant at all. It's interesting from our educated background, na may binary thinking na tayo, right? And we see that dissonance. How do we actually capture that unity, the non-dissonance on the level of the local, without actually registering it as irony? Diba? Kasi laging irony. Yung stand mo, laging ganun eh. Parang, isn't it strange? This is happening. The ina is here. And then all these badings are here. Isn't it strange? That's the dissonance in Lino Broca. Diba? Na irony rin. Or even in Maximo Oliveros, yung pamilya ng mga magnanakaw na nagdadasal bago kumain at mahal nila isa't isa at mga mababait sila sa isa't isa pero mga mamamatay tao at sila magnanakaw. Mga ganon, di ba? Na kinikwento ng mga filmmakers natin paulit-ulit. Di ba? So, it's interesting. It's very interesting. And I think the bakla of the poor, rural poor, urban poor bakla is in the middle of that. And we share some of it because now sexological thinking is still just taking root. Naabutan pa natin yung fluidity. And ngayon, we're probably going to lose it in a generations' time, we are probably going to have to love each other finally. Kasi yung mga lalaki ayaw na. Ayaw na. Kasi alam na nila eh, di ba? Nagising na sila. Kumain na sila ng forbidden fruit. Diba? They know na good and evil. No, but, so I knew it would happen. I had an inkling it would happen, that we would see that dissonance. No? And the collections are, the ones in the local languages are expressing that dissonance best. The ones in English, medyo uniform na siya kasi the global imagination gave globality, mutual love, egalitarian, symmetrical desire. Diba? But the ones in local, you see it. We're gonna see it again in Maki's collection. Diba? Okay. Alright.
Okay, thank you po. Lunch is served. We'll come back here 1:30 for Maki session. Thank you.